Boker Tov. Today's Daf Yomi is Bava Basra Kuf Nun Hey 155. Today's Daf Yomi is dedicated for Shemir for the Chayalim Matzah for the Shvuyim and the Yeshua for Am Yisrael on this eighth Tzara. Daf Yomi, we're going to start on 155a, 10 lines from the top. The Gemara says, Idmar Katan Me'ima Saimocher B'nich Sayaviv. At what point is a minor allowed to sell? And Rashbam is going to clarify this on tomorrow's daf. We're talking about the real estate that he inherited from his father. Because by movables, we say in the Gemara in Gittin that the pa'utos, this is a beautiful word for young children. The pa'utos, their sale is valid and their purchases are valid. And we explained there that that's 7. Shkoyach, welcome, my dear friend. My dear friend, welcome. We have the Gemaras here. Okay, our dear friend has returned from doing his work in around the world on behalf of Jews. Come back to study with us. So Eric has walked in. So the Pu'utan, movables or sales are valid. We say there from the 6 or 7 years old. And the reason why it's allowed to make a sale from the age of 6 or 7 is because he has to make a living. But by real estate, we're saying, Eric, on 155a, 10 lines from the top, the Gemara is telling us that a minor cannot necessarily sell the real estate that he inherited from his father. He has to wait till a certain age, and we'll see why. Anyway, so the Gemara is asking the question: at the age of what age is a child allowed to sell the real estate he inherits from his father? And we'll see also, or she inherits. So Rava says in the name of Rav Nachman ben Shmona Esrei Shana, once they are 18 years. And Rav Huna bar Chinna says in the name of Rav Nachman ben Esrim Shana. Prior to the age of 18 and prior to the age of 20, they're not allowed to sell the real estate. This is rabbinic takana. So the Gemara says, so there's a dispute. Rava says in the name of Rav Nachman 18, and Rava says Rav Huna bar Chinna says in the name of Rav Nachman age 20. So the Gemara first challenges this from a brisa that we had in yesterday's daf. Most of Rabbi Zera, Ma'aseh b'Bnei Brak. There was an incident in Bnei Brak. A person sold the assets of his father. Umeis, and he was a minor, and then he died. And the children of his family, his relatives, they came along and they said he couldn't have sold it. He was a minor, Bishas and Katanaya and Bishas Visa, that he was a minor when he died. How could he have sold the real estate? Ubal Vishalas Rabbi Akiva, they came and they asked Rabbi Akiva, Mal Bodko. They said to Rabbi Akiva, can we dig him up and check it out and prove that he was a minor? And Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi Akiva said, you can't dig him up. That's desecrating the body. And furthermore, you want to prove even if you're not going to find signs of being an adult, that's not a proof that he was a minor when he sold it, because it's possible that the hairs on his body, which will be the proof, that they fell out after he died. Anyway, so the Gemara says, and this makes sense according to the position that Rava says in the name of Rav Nachman, that he was ben Shmona Esrei, that he was 18 years old. That makes sense. This whole story works. We're on the top of 155b. That's why they come along, and they said to him, Ma'alabodko, can we check him out? And if he's 18 years old, if he has the hairs of an adult, that will prove that if he doesn't have the hairs, it'll prove that he's a minor. But but if you, according to the position, Rav Huna bar Chinna in the name of Rav Nachman, who says he was the age of 20, what would it have done? What good would it have done to have checked him and said he doesn't have the signs of being an adult? Once we have a Mishnah in Yevamos that tells us, because we want to know if this boy has to do Yibum, because you can only do Yibum because the woman only falls to Yibum or Chalitza if it's a boy, if it's a man. But if once he reaches the age of 20 and he does not bring 2 hairs, Yavi Rayo Shehu Ben Esrim. He has to bring proof that he's 20. Then he's called a saris, and a saris lo cholot v'lo miyabim. And this saris, this is this type of person who has physical features and that is not exactly a man, and so therefore he doesn't do chalitza or yibum. So we see from here, that once he's 20, he's considered an adult, regardless of whether you find any signs of being an adult. So we see from here that's obviously the case that the investigation only works if you're 18. So it's a question on the sheet of Rav Funenbach in the name of Rav Nachman, who says that the age where you can't sell anymore is 20, because at 20 you'd be able to sell. The Gemara says, no, that's not a question. Lav idmarla. We answer. We explain that case. And Amar Shmuel Bar Yitzchak Amar Rav, who should know the boasting money stris? When do we say in the Mishnah that if you're 20 years old, even though you don't have the signs of being a man, being an adult, we consider you an adult saris? That's if you have the other signs of being a saris also. What are the other signs? Well, the Gemara in Yevamos tells us on 79b the other signs of being a saris. And what are the other signs of being a saris? So those are, like, for example, he doesn't have a beard, his the excretions from his body look differently. So that's the point. So it's not a question. And Rava says, indeed, we can infer from the Mishnah, Dekanami Dekatani, because what does it say in that Mishnah? It states, V'hu asaris. And he has the signs of being a saris. So when do we say he's an adult, regardless of it, at the age of 20? When he would be a saris as well. Shema minam. So the Gemara says, okay. So if he doesn't have the signs of being in a saris, at what point do we say you're an adult, even though you haven't gone through the physical signs of adolescence? The Gemara says, Tani Rebechia ad rov shnosam, until the majority of his years. Now it's going to shake everybody. What's the majority of your years? How do you know what the majority of your years are? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. Lamed Vav Shanim, says the Rashbam. Once you reach 36, you've reached the halfway point in your life. You're in the majority of your years. You've lived the majority of your years, because that's what it says. The days of years are 70 years old. So once you reach 35, 36, you've gone through the majority of your lifetime. A little bit of a humbling point to tell us to remember that we got a lot of work to do when we don't have that much time left to do it. Says the Gemara, when a person would come in front of Rebbe Chia and he wouldn't have the signs yet of being an adult, he had not he had been delayed in producing his physical signs of manhood, he would say, he would say, maybe change your diet. If you're too skinny, eat food to make you fatter. If you're too fat, eat food to make you skinnier. So the Hani Simonim, because these signs, Zimnin da'asu machmas kechushusa, Zimnin da'asu machmas biruyusa. He said sometimes these signs come because of diet. Sometimes they come because you're too skinny or too heavy. So we said once you reach 18 years old or 20 years old, then you're going to be able to sell the real estate. So the question is, what about after your 17th birthday, you're in the 18th year? Is that going to be like you're 18 years old? Or after the 19th birthday, before 20, is that like you're in your 20th year? Or do you have to actually hit the 18th birthday, 18 full years, or just into the 18th year? So Rav Nachman Tosman Kilef Nezman, meaning to say within the 18th year, it's like before you're 18. It doesn't work. This teaching of Rava was not stated explicitly. It was just stated as a general principle. There was the Tosman, the Asil, Zabin. There was a person. What happened was, before he reached 18, he was in the 18th year. He went and he sold the real estate of his father. But also coming to Rava, he came to Rava and Rava said the sale is void. You weren't able to sell it. So Man Chaza, the person who saw this, Mishum he said, oh, Rava must paskin that Up until your 18th birthday, even though you're in your 18th year, you're not able to sell it. Below, that wasn't the case. The reason why he couldn't sell it there was you say Rasa Chazabe. Rava saw that this guy was especially unqualified to sell the land. He had this special late maturing mind. David come and why? It's a little bit of a sad thing. David come he was freeing his slaves and he wasn't asking anything in return. So therefore, every Rava said, "Oh, he clearly doesn't value his assets, so he's not able to sell the property, even though he's in the 18th year." So Sholach Guido Bar Menashe Rava, Yoamdenu Rabbeinu. So Guido Bar Menashe sent a message to Rava. Some say it was to Rav. He said, uh, teach us our Yoamdenu, teach us our Rebbe. Tinokos Bas Arbas Reishanav Yom Echad. What if she's 14 years old? And she's a girl, is 14, but she knows Yodas B'tiv Masav Amatan. She knows how to do business. Mao, what's the law in that circumstance? Will she be able to make the sale? And Shalchayim Yadas B'Tiv Masav Matan Mekach Mekach Memkar Memkar. Because look, she knows how to do business, her sale is valid. We see from here that the age is just a general guideline, but if you clearly know what you're doing, then they're going to allow you to do business, even this girl at the age of 14. So the Gemara says, well, why is he sending him the question about a 14-year-old girl? Why doesn't he ask him about a boy? Presumably, that's more common for the boy to do the business. So why isn't he asking the question about the boy? So the Gemara says, well, that's good. It was just the incident was with a 14-year-old girl. Well, why is he asking about a 14-year-old girl? Why don't we push it to when she's bat mitzvah at 12? Mar says, no, that's what happened with the 14-year-old girl. So now the Gemara says, there was a boy who was under 20. The Azal Zabin Nechse Avua, Kigidol Bar Menashe. And he went and he sold the assets of his father. And he sold his father's assets, like Kigidol Bar Menashe. Yeah, and Asla Kame de Rava and Amrei. So he went to Rava because he wanted Rava to reverse the sale. Now this boy, he actually was smart, but he sold the property and he wanted to undo it. So he came to Rava and he was going to try to get Rava to rule that the property, that the sale was canceled. So Amalei Krove, so the relative said, Zil Ochol Tamri, Vishadebe Kashaisa Be Rava. So he said, they told him, go eat. So they said, act like a fool. Basically, go eat these dates and throw the pits in front of Rava. And I'll think that you're a fool. And I'll cancel the deal. We see from here a person who just doesn't take care of his trash, just throws it on the ground, is clearly a fool. So Avad Hachi, so Amaro Zabino Zabina. He did this in front of Rava. Rava said, hey, his sale is not a valid sale. This guy doesn't even know how to throw out his trash. So he canceled the sale. Kika. But now the people who had bought it, they were now all of a sudden unhappy. So Kikansule Shtara, when the scribe was writing up this contract, the ruling, the way it was the parties had to, the plaintiff, I guess, in this case, the son had to pay for the scribe. So, because he wants the written document. So, Kikansule Shtara Amrule, Lukuchos, Zio Amole, Rava, Megillas Esther Bezuza, Shtura Demar Bezuza, go say to Rava, listen, this guy's charging me a zuz to write up this ruling, but I could get a whole book of Esther for a zuz. Actually, this is a big exaggeration. A book of Esther cannot be bought for a zuz. That's way too much. It's way too little for what a book of Esther would actually cost. And the reason why we know this is pointed out by Rav Yaakov Emden, because it says in the Gemara in Gittin that uh, that they evaluated that one garment and a book of Tehillim and a book of Job and a book of Proverbs was all wrapped together for 500 zuz. So we see from here that obviously Megillah Esther be worth way more than a zuz, but it was speaking in an exaggerated manner. So also Amru Zabina. So when he went and said this to Rava, Rava said, "Oh, this kid is no dummy. He's sharp. His sale is therefore a sale." They canceled the ruling. He said, "Zabina, Zabina." Therefore, here's the moral of the story: never argue with anybody who's part of the bureaucracy of the court, because it will come back to you and hurt you. So the relative, the boy's relatives protested. They said, "Look, he didn't know what he was saying. That the purchasers told him to say that." Rava didn't buy it. He said, "Misabre mizbrule sevar." And kimin the mizbrule v'savar, mizbrule savar, and kimin the mizbrule v'savar made the yada. So he said, no. They taught him a logic, Mizbroi Savar, that they explained something to him. And since once you explain something to him, he understands it. The Kivan, the Mizbroi Savar, since when you explain something to him, he understands it, he's like considered to be like somebody who's a chacham, who knows what he's talking about. And what's the reason why he threw the dates? What's the reason why he threw the dates? He was just basically an audacious kid. And he throws the dates in my house, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know how to do business. Maybe he's ill-mannered, but he knows how to do business. I'm a Ravuna Breder of Yeshua, edus. And when it comes to testifying, even though we said that less than 20 years old, he doesn't know how to do business and he can't sell, with respect to testimony, he could testify what he saw and he heard from the age of 13 onward, once he's a physical adult. So the Gemara says, Amar Zutra, lo Amran Elametaltli. No, when do we say that you could do testimony by movables of Omakarkailo? But real estate, you can't do it because the assumption is, because since you can't engage in the real estate business, you can also, you also can't testify about it. So the Gemara says, Amar Ravashi, Gemara Sutra, Maishna Metaltali Zabina Zavina. What's the reason that by movables we say you can testify? Because by movables it's a valid sale. If that's the case, El Me'ata, if that's the case, Ditanan, that which we learned in the Mishnah in Ksuvos, that the Mishnah tells us, the Mishnah in Gittin, Ditanan, Hapautos Mekar. Now which we say that it states in the Mishnah in Gittin that the Pautos, the little kids, they can engage in movable sales. Their purchases are purchased and their sales are sales. The metalton, and we say that there the sages allow them by movables to engage in business. Achinami, they do so. You want to say that the whole reason why you can't testify is because you can't engage in that business deal. So maybe by the Pu'utos who can engage in business transactions when they're the age of 6 or 7, would you say that Taka, they could even testify? So the Gemara says, no, no, the reason why they can't testify is because there's a verse. What does the verse say? It says the two men have to stand up. And as Rashbam explains, we need men and not minors. And so therefore they're not able to testify, even though they engage in that business deal. Because of the fact that they were not considered to be adults. So that's the way. That's the way the Rashbam explains it over here. So the Gemara in Gittin gives the second explanation. But we won't go into that now. So then the Gemara says, Amar Meimar umatanas umatanas. Meimar said, even though this person who's under the age of either 20 or 18 is not able to make a sale, nonetheless, he's able to make a gift. He can give away the property. Once he's 13, he can give it away, even though he doesn't understand business, and even though his sale of the real estate is not a sale, he could take his father's property, donate it to the Jewish Federation once he reaches the age of 13. So I'm like Rav Ashi, or Hashta. I don't know what the law in America is. Probably you have to be 18 or something. So says Rav Ashi to Amemar, it doesn't make sense. Hashtu Mazabini to Mekabel Zuzi Amris Duo. Just like if you make a sale, if he's under the age of 20 or 18, where he gets money for it, we don't allow it because we say Dilma Mazel Mazbin. Maybe he's selling it too low. Kol Shekain Matana, for sure, a gift should not be allowed. Even for sure, by a gift, it should not be allowed. The Lomati label midi when he gets nothing. So meaning to say, if it's an obvious question, if in a case of a sale, we don't allow it until he's 18 or 20 because maybe he's going to get not enough money, for sure, a gift where he gets no money should not be allowed. So that's what Rabbi Ashi says to Amemar. So Amemar responds, Amar on the top of 156a, Utamech, according to your logic, Zabin Shaveh Hamisha Beshisa, Achinami de Zabina Zabini. According to your logic, if he sells the real estate, which is worth 5, he sells it for 6, that should be a valid sale because there he's not losing money. If he gains money, we should allow. We should only cancel it when he loses money, but we don't allow that. So what's the reason why we don't allow him to make a sale of property? Because Kimluhu or Rabbanan, the Yanuka Mekarva Daite Gabe Zuze. The rabbis had an assumption that the reason why a sale is no good is the rabbis assumed that a child has just an very, very tempted by cash. The child wants to make a money and he doesn't have the right perspective. And zimnin demikarka zuze, and sometimes they'll be like shaking the coins, and azal nazbal kul nichse, and he'll sold the entire kul nichse davu. He'll sold the entire assets of his father. And so therefore the rabbis made it takana that no sale is acceptable because we're concerned that maybe he's going to sell off everything just for the pleasure of the coins. Of all gabe matana, but with respect to a gift, the gift is no allure of the coins. He doesn't hear the coins. He doesn't hear the coins, and so therefore, we're not for the fact that he was legitimately getting some sort of benefit. He wouldn't have sold it. So if he wouldn't have given it as a gift, so he's getting something from the gift, and so therefore, therefore, therefore the rabbi said is they allowed his gift to be good so that people will do kindness for him and he's going to be able to give them gifts. We see from here a very important point that the benefit you get from giving a gift is even greater than the benefit you get from receiving cash for something. When you give a gift to somebody, if you don't accept cash, you actually are getting much more than if you would accept cash. That the gift is worth more than even the cash. The benefit of giving the gift is worth more than even the cash. That's the straight up teaching. That's the pshat of this Gemara. We have a few more minutes to go on. So the Gemara says,